In the heart of Babylon, where Alexander the Great had drawn his last breath, a storm was brewing. A storm not of armies clashing on the battlefield, but of ambition, betrayal, and poison. Today, we travel back over 2,000 years to a feast where the heirs of Alexander gathered not to honor his memory, but to destroy each other. This is the story of the poisoned banquet of Alexander's successors. A dinner so deadly, it shattered an empire. The year was 323 BC. Alexander the Great, undefeated in battle, ruler of a world-spanning empire, was only 32 years old when he fell gravely ill in Babylon. Alexander the Great, undefeated in battle, ruler of a world-spanning empire, was only 32 years old when he fell gravely ill in Babylon. For days, he burned with fever. His generals watched helplessly as the man who had carried them across deserts, rivers, and battlefields slipped away. On June 11, Alexander died. His body had not even cooled when whispers filled the palace. Had he been poisoned? Or was it illness? Malaria, typhoid, even West Nile virus? The truth was lost to time, but one thing was certain. The death of Alexander left behind an empire too vast and too fragile to survive without him. A kingdom without an heir. Alexander had left no clear successor. His wife Roxana was pregnant, but her child had yet to be born. His half-brother, Aridaeus, was alive but mentally impaired, unfit to rule alone. The generals who had once sworn loyalty to Alexander now turned their eyes to the throne. Men like Perdiccas, the regent, Ptolemy, the cunning governor of Egypt, Seleucus, the future ruler of the East, and Antipater, who held power in Greece. Each man believed himself destined to inherit Alexander's crown. Each feared the ambitions of the others. At first, the generals agreed to share power. Perdiccas would act as regent, ruling in the name of Alexander's unborn son. The others were granted territories to govern. But this was no peace, it was a truce balanced on a knife's edge. Jealousy, suspicion, and greed simmered beneath the surface. And it was in this climate of fragile unity that a banquet was called. Some say it was a celebration of loyalty. Others claim it was a political meeting. But for several of Alexander's successors, it would become their last meal. The feast was lavish, fit for the heirs of an emperor. Tables groaned under the weight of roasted lamb, figs, olives, honey cakes, and steaming platters of bread. Golden goblets overflowed with imported wine. The generals arrived dressed in their finest warriors turned would-be kings. They raised their cups in uneasy toasts, their words polite but their eyes sharp with suspicion. To the outside observer, it was a night of laughter, music, and abundance. But in truth, the air was thick with tension. For among the delicacies of the feast, a more sinister ingredient lurked: poison. At first, nothing seemed amiss. But then, the symptoms began. One guest coughed violently. Another clutched his stomach. Goblets slipped from shaking hands, clattering onto the floor. Panic spread through the hall as one by one, the diners collapsed. Some writhed in agony. Others fell silent, their faces pale, their lips trembling with the final gasp of breath. The feast became a scene of horror. The once lively banquet hall was filled with cries of pain, overturned dishes, and the stench of spilled wine. Who had poisoned the feast? Was it Perdiccas, eager to clear the path to power? Or was it his rivals, plotting to remove him before he could claim the throne? The truth was buried beneath the chaos. In the aftermath, rumors spread faster than fire. Some claimed Perdiccas himself orchestrated the massacre, hoping to eliminate rivals in one stroke. Others believed it was his enemies who had plotted against him. Still others thought the poisonings were exaggerated, a tale spun by historians to explain why so many generals fell in quick succession. But what mattered most was the effect. Trust was shattered. From that night forward, no general could ever again look at another without suspicion. The poisoned banquet was not the end, but the beginning of decades of bloodshed. The once united Macedonian army splintered. The wars of the Diadochi erupted, brutal conflicts that lasted nearly 40 years. Alexander's dream of a single world empire died at that table, replaced by smaller kingdoms carved up by men who had once called themselves brothers in arms. Ptolemy secured Egypt, founding a dynasty that would last 300 years. Seleucus claimed Persia and much of the east. Cassander seized Macedonia and Greece. Others perished, victims of assassination, betrayal, and endless war. The Poisoned Banquet had lit the fuse of empire-wide destruction. Today, historians debate. Did the banquet truly happen as described? Was it an elaborate assassination? Or just a symbolic tale, retold to explain the collapse of unity after Alexander's death? Perhaps the details were twisted with time, but the lesson remains clear. In the struggle for power, the battlefield is not always the most dangerous place. Sometimes, the deadliest weapon is a goblet of wine. And so, the empire of Alexander the Great, the empire that stretched from Greece to India, began to crumble, not under the swords of foreign enemies, but at a dining table, poisoned from within. The Poisoned Banquet serves as a chilling reminder. In the halls of power, even a feast can be fatal.